Oh, hey, buddy, it's your old pal Scott, and this is Let's Talk Tabletop. You know, there's a lot of hobbies in this world that we could be doing. We could be golfing, we could be jet skiing, we could be doing flag football at a rec center, we could be doing softball, but for some reason, we choose miniature wargaming. And it gets a lot of hate from different sides. It gets a lot of puzzlement from different sides. People don't understand it. Like, why would you assemble and paint miniatures? You're an adult. What are you, a child? Are you Arrested Development? There's a lot of questions about it. So, I just wanted to explain exactly why I love my boring life miniature wargaming. Unlike many of you, I did not start miniature wargaming as a child or a teenager. I was in my early to mid 20s, probably my mid 20s, when I got into miniature wargaming. The story I've told many, many times is that at a flea market, they had like little kiosks of little stores, and one of them had Yu-Gi-Oh cards, Magic cards, that sort of stuff, nerdy stuff. And up on the shelf, they had the 5th edition Assault on Blackreach box. And it just struck me for some reason. I'd never heard of Warhammer. I'd never looked at Warhammer. I didn't know what that was. I didn't know what miniature wargaming was at all. And I decided to take a look at that up on the shelf. And I asked the guy, hey, can I look at that? What is this? And he explained to me as I flipped the box over and I saw the miniatures. Of course, they were already painted, right? I didn't know I had to paint them at the time. And he's like, oh, yo, yeah, you can play this game. We have a club on Wednesdays, etc. Now, I did not buy Assault on Blackreach on that day, but I did more or less join their wargame club. Now, keep in mind, unlike many of you, I knew not a soul in this group. I'd never known anything about Warhammer, and I didn't have anybody to get me into it. So now I've got a ton of Age of Sigmar and 40k armies, but the point is that that sparked me seeing that starter set up on the shelf. That sparked so far a 16-year interest in mine that has really encompassed everything else. But the point is I love my boring life. And my brother does not understand it at all. And he's like, well, you just assemble these models. You're basically putting toys together and you're painting it. Like, what enjoyment do you get out of that? And I'm like, well, I know a lot of you actually enjoy painting. I'm pretty indifferent to it. I do not like assembly and I don't care for painting. I tolerate it. What I really like is seeing painted models on the board and being able to play a fully painted army. That's the thing that excites me. I refuse to allow myself to play with unpainted miniatures. I just don't do it. So I've been making a huge push to get all this stuff painted. And this is like a pretty small mass brutality army. I don't know what it would be in Legion. But the point is that I love this ride that I've been on with this hobby. And I've learned painting skills, which, I mean, I've always been artistic, drawing and things like that, but I was never into painting. So being able to paint miniatures to a moderate standard, as far as I want to go with it, it has actually been a great learning experience. And I've learned about highlighting and base coats and washes and texture paint and all of that. Source lighting and all sorts of things. So there's been a huge learning curve that I've truly enjoyed. Not to mention the tactics of it. I know a lot of you enjoy painting more than I do, but a lot of you also enjoy the tactic portion of it and the strategy. And I don't like list building so much, but I like to be able to try to make whatever I took work. That's my enjoyment of it. List building's kind of like whatever. I don't really like it. A lot of you, I've got some friends I know that just love to at work, like let their mind chew on a list and go, okay, well, maybe if I took this out, that would save me 10 points and I could add this or whatever. And that's cool too. What's really neat about this hobby, for all the hate that we have in our communities and for as much bewilderment that people outside have for our hobby, there is something for everybody, which is pretty cool. If you only like the lore and you only read the novels, that's cool. You're still part of the hobby, right? You could talk to somebody who likes to play the game of Warhammer or Legion or whatever, and you could actually talk to them because you know the setting of their game. Now, they may not know the setting as well as you or whatever, but it's kind of cool you have that connection. It's bringing people together, and that's what I really like about this. Like, watching sports is fine, and I know a lot of people enjoy watching sports, but you're not actively engaged in it. You're not necessarily learning anything because you have no control over it. But with this, you can learn strategy, you can learn better reading skills with learning the lore and reading the novels. How many children and teenagers and adults have learned better painting skills, have learned better money management, like budgeting? Literally, when you're making a list, it's budgeting your points for effectiveness, right? You can't tell me that figuring out what's the better price per pound in bananas is much different from your price per points of wargaming. Like it's a very similar sort of thing, right? So budgeting is a big deal. Painting's a big deal. Reading's a big deal. Math is a big deal. How many pluses, minuses, multiplication? All the kids, I deal with a lot of children in wargaming, and uh, some of them are not so great at math. They're a little younger, and this forces them to do it. You've got three paladins. They get 3 attacks each. How many is that? 3 groups of 3. And they have to tell you, oh, it's 9, you know? And they really do have to think about it, but it's applicable. It's such a great way to teach children how to do things because they can apply it immediately and have fun at it. So it's really cool that, yes, this is a boring hobby. Yes, a lot of it is like uh, behind the scenes, right? You have to assemble, you have to list builds, you have to paint, you have to do all that behind the scenes, kind of separate. But that's actually another cool element of wargaming. You can do this solo. You can play games solo. You can just paint. You can just read. You can just assemble. You can do whatever. Just have a collection of miniatures. Don't ever have to play it. Or you could step out of your comfort zone, make friends and all of that too. Like it's a really, really cool hobby for anybody that's interested in the artistic or the lore or the tactics or anything like that. And a lot of people would say that's boring. A lot of people would say, "Oh, why don't you start, a rec basketball league, or why don't you do anything else?" And I'm like, "No, I love this. I truly, truly love this. I wouldn't have a case of Brutality Skirmish warbands if I didn't love miniature wargaming. I wouldn't be painting my 25th army or whatever right now if I didn't love miniature wargaming." So, what do you like about our boring hobby? What are you into? Do you like the lore? Do you like the tactics, the list building, the painting? What do you like? Some people just participate in professional painting competitions. They barely even play. They just want to crank up their skill level in painting to the highest it can be and bring home some gold or silver or bronze. So, despite all of the disagreements we may have as wargamers, can we all agree on one thing? That this hobby is pretty cool. It's pretty cool. And you could be doing a million other things worse than painting miniatures, My wife knows that when I'm in my gaming shed, I'm not at the bar. I'm not cheating. I'm not doing drugs. Like it's legitimately wholesome. Like you could be doing a million worse things. You could be robbing, whatever, and instead you're painting Luke Skywalker. That's what you're doing. You're painting Luke Skywalker. How nerdy and how wholesome and how innocent is that? To be honest with you, I think wargaming overall has had a positive impact on the world. And that sounds like a gross overstatement, right? But think about this. Wargaming has brought so many different people together over the lore, tactics, painting, etc., that normally would never be in association with each other. People of different religions, people of different races, of different sexes, of different ages, of different anything, ideologies, that brings them all together and they can at least have something in common. And to be honest with you, that's probably exactly what we need right now in the world, is something to bring people together. So now let's have a big argument in the comments section. Anyway, and of course the show is brought to you by my beautiful, sexy, good-smelling Patreon patrons. All these right here. You see them? Yeah. They're pretty cool people. Every single one of these, A-okay in my book. Yeah. Especially Brendan. Brendan's a nice guy. Anyway, thank you so much for watching. Please like, subscribe, share, comment, etc., etc. And I will see you next week. And hey, we're starting off the new year with something positive, not negative. You guys have a great day.